This is Dr. Matt Barber of Alabama Orthopedic Clinic. We are proud supporters of Ransom Reprogram, Ransom Ministries, and all of the good work that they do in our community. If you would like to learn more about us, check us out at alortho.com or barbertotaljoint.com. You can also hear more from me personally on the Ortho Real podcast. Thank you again for allowing us to be involved with Ransom Ministries and all of the great work that they do.
Hey, welcome to the Ransom Experience. My name is Matt Armbruster, Executive Director of Ransom Ministries. You're going to hear stories from people that we've served and people that serve alongside us, as well as those that we partner with throughout our community. You're going to hear about decisions they made throughout their life and things that happened through different avenues of their life that caused them to go down a path that they didn't see themselves going. And then also those decisions that they have to make on a daily basis to stay away from those decisions that they made in the past. Ransom Ministries empowers people to utilize their God-given gifts and talents in their career and for their community. All along the way, we learn how to help those close to us and also maybe even help ourselves. This is real. This is raw. This is Ransom.
With every star, we are born again. Open your heart, spend less time in your head.
This show is brought to you by Ransom Recycling, your number one choice for electronic recycling in Mobile, Alabama. Help reduce waste in our landfills by recycling all of your unwanted, unused, and non-working electronics. Ransom Recycling is a division of Ransom Ministries that is helping to put men and women back to work. Check out ransomministries.com for a complete list of acceptable items. Drop-offs and pickups can be easily scheduled through the website. Please note that we are not accepting TVs at this time. Ransom Recycling, open 8 to 3 Monday through Friday. Help our planet while helping men and women re-enter the workforce.
With every star, we are born again. Open your heart, spend less time in your head.
Hey y'all, welcome to the Ransom Experience, where we talk to people that have been through our program, have served alongside us in our program, and we just get to know them. Today I'm joined by Kathryn God. She came through our program. How long ago was it, Kathryn?
2018.
2018. Thanks for coming today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So Kathryn grew up in Goshen, Mississippi. She was one of 4 children. She was in school. She was in show choir. She was very social. And if any of you ever get to meet Kathryn, you'll see that she is a very social person. She's very likable. She says what's on her mind, that's what I love about her, is that what you see is what you get with Kathryn. So it's an honor to be able to talk to you today. And so I'm just going to start it out with you just tell me kind of about what it was like in Goshen and what it was like being one of 4 kids and kind of tell me about your early life, childhood time.
Well, I've always said that we had an idyllic childhood. There's nothing I've ever been able to compare it to. Both my parents worked. My dad was an attorney, and my mother worked as a quality engineer at the shipyard. My older sister is actually 13 years older than me, and so she actually was in high school and leaving by the time I was 5. I have a sister that's 2 years younger than me, and then my brother is the baby, and he's 6 years younger. We grew up on the whole block was nothing but our family. Like my aunt and uncles and my cousins lived right next door. Another aunt and uncle lived right down the road with all of my cousins there. So my cousins were my best friends growing up. We swam. We built a lot of forts. We went on a lot of family vacations. We lived outside. I don't know what else I can say. It was just, that is one thing I've always been grateful for. And where I'm at now, and hearing some of the stories, I know what reasons I have to be grateful for how they raised us.
That's great. So you had a great childhood. Your mom and dad worked; they were there for you. Your siblings were there for you, and then you went to school, graduated from high school, and then kind of like what was your youth like? Like, was it about the same, or did you start like moving the other direction?
I actually did start. One thing, my parents divorced when I was 13, and even in that, they put us first. I never, ever saw my parents argue as long as I live. I've never seen them argue. And they just came to us one day and said that they were getting a divorce. My dad did not want to separate us completely, so he actually bought a lot and built a house 2 streets down from my mother so that we could walk back and forth. And one thing he always said was that parents should never argue in front of their children, and they should never allow anyone else to talk negatively about the other. And he lived by that with his own clients and within his own family. But I know that rocked me, and doing, soul searching and counseling and processing, I've realized that at that point I got very angry, but did not know how to vocalize it. And they took us to counselors. Anything that somebody suggested that they do to make that process easier on us, they did. I just went into straight rebellion. I actually started experimenting with drugs when I was 13.
We talk about that in Reprogram, that it's a lot of times a trauma, whatever that is. It could be divorce, could be death, could be a lot of different things. And if we don't know how to voice our anger, then it internalizes, and then we try to cover it up with other things. Is that kind of how you felt like you were doing? Is
Exactly.
trying to deal with it, just trying to deal with it in an unhealthy way. So at 13, you're using, experimenting with drugs, which obviously puts you around people that aren't the best people to be around because they're doing the same thing you. And really, I know myself, when I'm in rebellion, I don't want to be around people that are doing good. Would you say that?
Not at all. Oh, yeah.
So as you go 13, kind of what did your life kind of move from there? Kind of where did it go?
I was on pain pills by the time I was 15. They honestly never had a clue. When I started getting into toxic relationships, there was one that became extremely abusive that my family finally absolutely were made aware of how severe it had gotten, and they stepped in, and that ended. But I went head first into another one. By the time I was graduating high school, I was 18 when I graduated, and the night of my high school graduation, my best friend John, we had been best friends since we were 9 years old, going to the skating rink. We tried Oxycontin for the first time together that night, and that was the first time I ever remember doing a drug and saying, okay, this did whatever I needed it to do, and I will do this again. I had also started experimenting with meth. And so basically, I was in college and daily on methamphetamines and Oxycontin. When I was 20, I had a seizure at a friend's funeral, and my parents came to the hospital, and they were like, okay, what's really going on? So I went through my first treatment at 20. I think that was in 2001.
Okay.
And let's see, that lasted about 3 months. And I stopped doing meth, but never stopped the opiates. After that, they realized that treatment, it was outpatient. It did not do anything. Nothing changed. I went to my meetings. I got my little sheet signed, and that was it. There was no real program of recovery. That was the first time I'd ever been introduced to AA, and I thought it was great, but I was in no way, shape, or form ready to be honest and actually get involved in anything. I went to my first inpatient treatment later that same year. I was there for 6 months and used on the way home. Within a couple months, I fell asleep and flipped my Explorer, and it was a pretty bad accident. And all that did was spiral me even further.
So you went through outpatient rehab, then you went to an inpatient rehab, and it seems like the first one was more like because your family was kind of telling you needed to do it. Really, you weren't really at a place where you really wanted to get better, because you said that was the first time that a drug had really done what it was supposed to, or what you felt like it was supposed to, and just numb everything, just get rid of everything. And so you moved forward, you went through another one, and you told me you've been in multiple treatment centers. So how many total have you been to before you came to the Home of Grace?
The Home of Grace, this was the last time I went through this program was actually the second time I had gone to the Home of Grace. But all total, that meant when I arrived here, the last time I completed this program that was my 14th treatment center and I've completed all of them. Yeah. I never left one. I did great in treatment. It was afterwards that I did not. I think, 2003, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter the same month that my best friend John died of an overdose. And I just spiraled like out of control. I was angry. I felt guilty because I had introduced him to the drug that ended up killing him. Yeah. And I didn't know how to process that.
So you went through these treatment centers. Were any of those faith-based treatments? I mean, the Home of Grace, I know the first time you went through was, but what about the other ones?
The majority of them were not. Pine Grove in Hattiesburg was not, but it was supposed to be one of the top ones, so my parents sent me there. One in Pascagoula was not. The first faith-based program I was ever introduced to was the Home of Grace that's not affiliated with this one, but the one that's located in Goshen, Mississippi. Yeah. And that was in 2009. And I think at that time that was my 7th treatment.
So you talked about, your friend passing away. And, most people that have never been in addiction or done any of that would think that would make you not want to do it, but you're saying that it really spiraled you deeper into it because of the guilt and not being able to forgive yourself and not knowing how to process those different things. So let me tell you that. So you came to the Home of Grace for this last time. Like, why did you come that time? Why did you decide to go back to the Home of Grace or go to you went to the one in Mississippi, but this one, why did you come this last time? What do you feel led you there?
Honestly, I knew what I had felt when I was here the first time in 2016, and I got here the first time 2 weeks after I buried my dad to bone cancer. And I was not brutally honest that time, and there were things I held back. I covered over a toxic relationship. I dressed it up. Something in me knew that if I was ever going to get this and if I was going to make the decision to live, that this is where I needed to be. My brother, I got out of jail. Actually, I'd been in jail for 3 months, and I got out of jail in August, at the end of August in 2018, and I told him that I wanted to come back to the Home of Grace, and he dropped me off outside the front office with the clothes on my back, basically, and he said, I'm done. This is the last thing I'm going to do for you. I'm honestly, as much as I love you, I'm just ready for you to die, because every time you relapse, it feels like I'm burying you all over again. And I'm just ready to grieve you and be done. So do not call me nothing. And I will say, for the first 2 weeks in the program, I wanted to die. Yeah. I was just beyond broken to a place I had never been. And I was actually going to repeat exactly what I had done. I wasn't being honest. And then I just kept praying the word over my life. And I walked in my counselor's office and I said, okay, look here. And I just got 100% brutally honest for the first time in my life. And I wasn't struck by lightning, and they didn't turn their backs on me. And I could breathe, and I could finally get honest before the Lord, because I couldn't get honest with myself. I had lied so much in my life, I didn't know what was the truth.
Yeah.
And something changed, and I became 100% fully surrendered that whatever it took, that my life was going to be different.
That is so awesome, because at the beginning of the opening, I said, you know, you what you see is what you get with you, and you're very honest, and you share what's on your mind, and that's the Kathryn I know, you know. So I believe that that's that point where you just got to realize, you know what, there ain't nobody going to judge me. If they do, that's on them. I can't really worry about all that. Yeah, you got to do what you're supposed to do. So I'm going to explain a little bit. We talk about the Home of Grace, and the Home of Grace is a partner of ours that we've been partner with since about 2015, I think, is when we started with them, maybe 16. They're a women's rehab where they go. It's a faith-based organization that just loves on the ladies that are there. They love on them. They show them that people care. They show them that you know, Jesus cares for them. And I've seen so many transformations. And, you know, I remember you showing me pictures of your mugshot I think it was right before you went to the Home of Grace. And
yeah,
I'm going to post a picture of you on this little podcast of what you look like now. And you're you're just beautiful. And not saying you weren't beautiful then, but I think you were under such torment and so much anger and so much guilt that causes us to not be who we were intended to be, not who God intended us to be. But I see you now. And so we'll get to where you came to Ransom Reprogram. This is in the final month. So we partner with them, and then the final month of the 90-day program, they come to Ransom Ministries, and we run through a series of about 18 sessions where we talk about, you know, life and being a person of character. We talk about trauma. We talk about how to deal with that on the job. We do resumes. We do all kinds of things. So you walked in that day, you'd been at Home of Grace. You pretty much surrendered by then that hey, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. And this is my, you know, more or less you're saying this is my last chance. I just got to do it now. And so you walk in. So what was that like when you came into Reprogram for the first time?
Honestly, I'm going to just tell you, I wasn't really sure what to expect. And I knew that we were going to have, all I knew was that this is going to be some job training and you're going to write a resume and things like that. But in my mind, and it was pride, it was like, well, I have a resume and it's actually done. And I've done this. I was 100% off, like wrong on what I was going to get from that program. And I couldn't be more thankful. I had never, ever had it looked, number one, here is what your goals are. We wrote our short-term goals, and I found mine recently, and I was able to check every one of them off. And that said, you know, and this was just 6 months ago that I put my hands on that I got from Ransom. And I was able to check every single short-term goal off, and then set some new ones for myself now. And having work apply, like pulling the Bible and applying biblical truth to building a work character and really focusing on integrity did something for me. Awesome. And I'm using that still.
Uh-huh. So when you left us, you went to Rouse's, right? Didn't you go to Rouse's?
I did.
And you were just working there, and you moved up like quite a bit while you were there.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I was a cook for 6 months. And within 6 months I was training to be an assistant deli manager. And, I was in that position for about a year, and they were training me to be a deli manager when I stepped down to take the job at the Home of Grace.
So you moved up pretty quickly. And I remember, I'd see you a lot because I come to that Rouse's quite a bit, especially during pandemic time. I was there all the time just because that was like my only outlet to get away from everything. Yeah. So I'd come there and you saw me shopping, but it was so awesome to see. But one thing that I think you did there by not only reaching the goals that you had for your life, but also just setting an example of what character's like, and seeing that in you made the door open for so many other ladies to come work there, that still work there, that have moved up into different management. And I believe, because you were one of the first ones that went there. And if you'd have,
well, there was one or two that had gone through this program that also they worked there for years before I was ever in this program. I will say that, and they did well. What I think that they also did was set a stepping stone, that they were willing to take a chance on me.
Yeah. And I think that I saw that in you. And so then, you moved through that, and then you felt a calling to go on to your next thing. And can you explain a little bit about what your job is there?
Yes, sir. With absolute joy. I knew that I wanted to go into counseling at some point. When I was on the program, for a lack of a better word, I begged the Lord to let me be a part of this ministry. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what that was going to look like, and I didn't care. I just knew I needed to serve here. And basically, after one of my goals had been to become a house mom at some point, I was over in the grad dorm for about 6 months when that door opened. So I worked as a house mom while I was working full-time at Rouse's. And then the position opened to be the grad dorm supervisor. And I worked in that capacity while still working at Rouse's. And then they offered me the position for the intake counselor, which would be a full-time job. So I made that decision, and I love Rouse's. I do. But one thing that came to mind was years ago I had heard a pastor say, "When has following the Lord ever cost you something that you love?" And I never had an answer. And for the first time in my life, I did. And that's what I walked in and told my bosses at Rouse's, and they were like, "Wait, what?" And I was crying. I've never left a job the right way. And I said, I have to do this. And they were like, we don't understand. And it happened the same day that they were moving me to my own deli to be a manager. And they were like, "Well, we're going to tell you what you'd be making." And I said, "I really don't need to know, because my decision can't have anything to do with that. Either I trust the Lord or I don't. And I know that He provides, and that I'm going to be more than blessed." So I made the decision. I worked out a 2-week notice because I had come to realize how important that was. The Word had said, and again, I did get that from Ransom, applying everything I do in work back to the Word. And the Word had said, finish the work you began with the same eagerness you had when you began it. And for me, that meant working out a 2-week notice as though it was my very first day on the job, and I was desperate for it. And I ended up keeping Rouse's as a part-time job. And if I had not worked with the ethic that I had, then they wouldn't have wanted to keep me.
Exactly. So I'm so proud of you. That is so awesome.
Thank you.
Because I have so many that don't leave jobs well, and even though we tell them in the class, that you should put a notice in, you need to leave it well. You don't want to burn bridges, because you never know when you might need that again. And that is a key thing to take out of this podcast for anybody listening, is that you have to, when you leave a job, you need to leave it well like that. Because like you said, they wouldn't have even thought about having you part-time if you'd have just come in there and said, "Hey, I'm done," after all the time they'd spent with you and done that. But knowing too that you got to go where God calls you. You got to move towards what God's calling you, no matter how weird it looks. And, when I started Ransom 11 years ago, I had a great job doing what I was, loved to do. And then He just called me away from it. And it's hard, but it's very rewarding. Very seldom when God calls you to something is it easy, but it's always rewarding, always rewarding. So I'm so proud of you and what you learned through that, and what you're doing at the Home of Grace as an employee of theirs. I know they're just blessed to have you there. So as we're going to end this thing, I know you got somewhere you need to be, and I do appreciate you jumping on this with me for this time, because I think what you have said today is huge for anyone out there that maybe's been on their 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, whatever rehab, that it's never too late to turn that around. It's never too late. And also speaks to the family, because if I remember right, at your graduation from the Home of Grace, was your brother there?
My brother was there.
That's what I thought. I think I met him there. And it's like the same
did.
guy
He
that
was
dropped
there,
you off
for
and
sure.
said, "Don't ever call me," is there because he saw some change in you. And I think that's phenomenal.
On top of that, my sister that I had not seen or talked to in over a year, she showed up at that graduation, and my prayer on the program had been, my family has heard this time's different multiple times. So my prayer was, Lord, you know what? I ask you to give them a peace in their heart that something's different, and let it not be anything I say, but let my walk show them. And I believe that he has absolutely honored that prayer, because some of the direct words from my prayer is what they have said to me in the last 3 years.
And it's awesome because I follow you on social media, and I see you doing family things and having family get-togethers. And every time I see it, even though I don't get to talk to you or be around you as much as I was or as I'd like to be, because we're all kind of going our own way. But that's the cool thing about social media. But I just see that, and I'm thinking, man, God is so good. God is just
He is so faithful.
He's just awesome. So if you were going to tell someone out there maybe struggling like you were, or, not knowing how to voice their feelings and all that, what would you tell them? And also maybe a family member that's kind of given up on their family or their person that's not doing exactly what they're supposed to. What would you, as we end this, what would you tell them?
Never give up hope. If all I could do when I first got here was recognize that I was still breathing, and that was tell myself, Kathryn, where there is breath, there is life, and where there's life, there is still hope. And I said that to myself every day. My mother may have had to definitely get real accomplished with tough love, but she never stopped praying for me. And I know that. But everybody that said she's worthless, she'll never change, I get where they're coming from, but do not ever give up, because there is always hope for redemption.
Amen. And that's what you think about your brother. I mean, he loved you so much that what he was telling you is, I can't watch you do this to yourself. But he didn't stop.
He loved me enough to let me go.
Exactly. And that's what I tell people that are struggling with, maybe a family member that's not doing what they're supposed to, is that sometimes no is the most loving thing you can do for somebody, even though it's the hardest to do. But I'm just so proud of you, Kathryn. I'm proud of where you are in your life. I'm proud that I could be a small part of any of that, but also just it's a way for me, even talking to you today has renewed my faith in who God is and what God can do, and how he can bring people out of the miry clay and do and just change their lives, and it ain't I've seen you transform, not just change. I think a lot of us, and you probably included in the first part of this, was just trying to change, and you couldn't do it. We can change for a minute, but if it's not who we are, we're not going to be able to keep it up. It's kind of like Christianity. If we're faking it, we can't keep it up very long. But if it's real, you can't change nothing. It's a transformation, and you're never going to go back to that. And I'm not saying that you probably don't have times where things are tough, but you're surrounded yourself by people that love you, care about you, and the ones that said you were worthless and no good, that's something they got to deal with, not something you do.
Sure.
So I again, thank you so much, Kathryn, for taking time today. It's been a blessing to talk to you. And I just wish the best for you, and keep on doing what you're doing.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for joining us today on the Ransom Experience. I hope you're as blessed as I was just listening to Kathryn. And if you want to know more about what we do at Ransom Ministries and Ransom Reprogram, go to ransomministries.com. You can also follow us on all the social medias. We have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We post on there every single day pretty much. and really just be praying for Kathryn and her move towards this being a counselor and doing all that. And I just thank you again for joining us. And until next week, when we bring you more stories from people that have been through our program or have worked alongside of us, we'll see you next week.
Too many days in the darkness without a glimpse of the light. Running tired and broken and scared, but I swear I'll never give up the fight.